Today's story features me getting my car's brakes changed by a potential loan shark. It was my day off from work and I decided to be a responsible adult and get my brakes changed on my car. Ever since I had the car about 4 or 5 years or so, I had not had the brakes replaced. I had just got done driving the car about 3,500 miles in 4 days, and they made screeching noises whenever I tried to stop. So, being the frugal guy I am, I decided to browse Groupon for the best deal on new brakes, and I found an independent shop that had pretty good reviews. I bought the Groupon for two new brake pads, just went on down to the shop, and then when I got there, they jacked up my car and spun the back wheels, and the owner of the shop, with a heavy Russian accent, said, "Yeah, you have zero back brakes. The wheels should not spin like that. I don't know how you haven't crashed yet. The Groupon you have won't work for this repair. Get a refund on it, and I'll give you a really good deal. I'll replace your front and rear brakes for 400 bucks." Part of me was naturally suspicious just because I don't know a whole lot about cars, so when someone suggests a repair, I'm usually somewhat hesitant. But I also knew how bad my brakes were, and I was like, oh, okay, sounds good to me. Go ahead. And then so they started working on my car while I waited in their waiting room. There was a lady in there waiting with me, and she was also having her car worked on, and it was not the nicest car. And from what she told me, it had a lot of miles on it. And the Russian guy called her up to the counter and spoke to her about how the car required several $1,000s of repairs, and she was very concerned about this because she did not have the money to pay for it. So the guy started talking to her about how the shop also offered loans, and they were talking money for a while, and eventually she decided to get her car repaired, which in my unexpert opinion was a terrible idea. Plus she was taking out a giant loan from just this random car shop. The shop owner then looked at me sitting in the waiting room and asked, "Hey, do you need money?" And I was like, "No, no, I'm okay." And he's like, "You sure? I can get you $3,000 today." And I'm like, no, I'm okay." And then he asked me and the lady if we wanted anything to drink while we waited for our cars. And the lady answered first and said, "I'd love a beer," because she was not having a good day. And that did not really faze the guy whatsoever. And he looked over at me, and I just said, "Okay, I'll have a water." So a few minutes went by, and he came back with a sack from a convenience store, and he handed the woman a 32-ounce Bud Light in a brown paper bag, and she cracked that bad boy right there in the waiting room. And then he handed me my bottle of water. And the door to the waiting room was open, and I could see them working on my car outside, and I was watching them somewhat closely just because I was somewhat suspicious still. And an SUV rolled up to my car, and the owner of the shop went out and greeted the guy, and they handed him a brown package, and it turns out it was just the parts for my rear brakes, and then the SUV left. It was neat that they were able to get the parts so quickly. I just found it kind of curious that a random SUV delivered them. Eventually, they finished up my car, and I paid in full to avoid being in debt to a potential loan shark. And then I went on my way, and my car continues to stop when I want it to. So, all in all, 5 stars. Would recommend getting your brakes changed by a loan shark.